Hey guys, welcome back. In today's video, we are talking about the AMC dark pools and swaps, the short liquidity going lower, the real price exposed, and many more in this video. First, we're taking a look at this. So yesterday's video, we showed the dark pool usage for both Monday and Tuesday. And you can see for October 14th, we saw 75%. And the day prior to that, it was also over 70%. And we've already talked about how as you can see, 14 million volume is being hidden away. It's being taken away from us, where the majority of those are buy orders that actually impacts the price. Now, as of today, for the 15th, you can see for the off-exchange data, we're looking at an even higher number at 80% off-exchange volume for AMC. Over 19.9, so close to 20 million volume was taken away from us. And when you take a look at the 30-day average of 62.4, you can see a drastic difference. And so the price today is down 0.35%. But the fact that we are seeing 80.21% in off-exchange volume should really show you why that is fake, why that isn't because people are selling, and that realistically, we should be looking at the price way higher than where it is at right now. But already you can see how ridiculous this is. This is the constant manipulation that we are of course facing, and this is pretty much on a daily. Right now, the very fact we're looking at 80% should be something that's extremely concerning in terms of the fairness of the market. But as we've always said, whilst the regulations are turning a blind eye towards these dark pool usage that is obviously exploiting the price of certain stocks, what we do know is that every time they resort to tactics like this, every time they need to use the off-exchange to this extent, it should showcase that right now, AMC is on trajectory for a very good path because it shows that people are buying. It shows that it's having attractions towards these capital, and that's why the shorts feel the need to obviously hide the majority of the buy volume. Another thing that we're looking at, and this is the update on swaps, but this is something we've shown in the past before, but I think it's extremely relevant, especially the fact we're seeing an 80% dark pool usage, which is the fact that we are seeing the total return swaps still increasing. And this was a comparison between January of 2025 to August of 2025. So in January, there were over 840 million total return swaps for AMC. And then in August, so just 2 months ago, we saw over 1.1 billion total return swaps. So an increase of over 300 total return swaps, 300 million total return swaps for AMC. Now, of course, it wouldn't shock us to know that the number definitely would have increased by now, because we've seen what's happening. But when you understand what's going on with AMC right now, when you see the fact that the total return swaps are not only not decreasing but increasing throughout the last few months, the fact that they're resorting to over 80% off exchange volume for AMC, it really just highlights what's going on in the market right now. We've always said the more suppression, the more manipulation these shorts are forced to do, that just shows that they are of course being cornered. Because if the short sellers weren't afraid of AMC, if they weren't seeing things that would positively affect AMC, they wouldn't resort to using these tactics. If AMC truly was a company that was destined to fail, that was destined to go bankrupt, then shorts wouldn't do anything, and instead they could just let it rot naturally. But they understand that AMC is doing everything they can. They're showing how promising they are. They're showing the potential. They are seeing how institutions are accumulating, seeing how capital is accumulating in AMC, and that's why they feel the need to use off exchange like this to see the total return swaps going up. And that's why we've always said we're beating these short sellers. And another thing you can see, according to Fintel, these are the institutions that are short AMC and short GME. Wonder which one of these could be manipulating the stock price for years by abusing off-exchange trading so buy orders don't impact price, spoofing, delaying buy order flow, naked short selling, and of course many more. Now, what you can see is for screenshot 1, you're seeing some people who are obviously short AMC. Bear in mind that these are puts, but it doesn't change away from the fact that they also have short position shares as well. Now, some of which you will see already, like Citadel, Kohrs. When you take a look at in terms of firstly the off exchange, you know that they have influence towards that. We talked about the internalization of orders by Citadel. when you take a look at the spoofing, especially the level 2 orders, some of these firms you would be seeing would be firms like Citadel, would be firms like Susquehanna. Another one is for the ones who are short GME. Once again, you're seeing some usual corporates, Susquehanna, Citadel, but in this case, an extra one, Goldman Sachs. Now, the interesting thing about this is Goldman Sachs is still short GME, but they're not short AMC anymore. And in fact, they were previously short AMC, but they actually got rid of those orders and flipped into long positions of AMC. Now, this doesn't change away from the fact that they are still spoofing AMC. We've shown this, especially what Crystal Ball's short report has shown in terms of his spoofing report. We've seen what they're doing, but this is what we talked about. Firstly, the culprits have always been the same. When you take a look at who's shorting GME, who's shorting AMC, and then you're looking at who's responsible for the off exchange, who's responsible for the FTDs, who's responsible for the synthetics, for the spoofing, you're seeing the same people. But it's also very interesting to mention the fact that we are seeing how short sellers have flipped positions into long, and it just showcases how even some short sellers are realizing that right now AMC and GME isn't something to be messed around with. Yes, they can continuously spend hundreds of billions of dollars to suppress these two stocks, but if they don't make any changes, it is going to eat into them, especially with what's going on right now. Going lower, the reverse repo numbers, what we are looking at is $3.516 billion. And so this is something that is very, very important to note. The reason why I say this is because by now everyone should know that the reverse repo, which was once an easy liquidity access for these short sellers, is now draining to zero. And as we've seen it close down to zero, this is going to have an effect on multiple different things. Firstly, it's obviously about understanding the fact that shorts won't get access to this, that banks will have difficulties with liquidity. And so you're going to be seeing how short sellers won't have the ability to suppress AMC as much as possible as they did before. And it could be potentially why we're seeing the increase in dark pool, because they're failing to create synthetics, they're failing to create these swaps, they're failing to create these FTDs, and so they're resorting to off exchange to hide the buy volume because they can't suppress it through the synthetics anymore. But of course, it also means that what was once previously used to finance the existing short positions that they've made are also going to be a difficulty for them. And so we're going to be seeing them struggling to continuously suppressing AMC, especially continuously financing the previous short positions that they have made on AMC. Now, furthermore, we can see this as well. Very interesting that on the day GMEU is removed from the ratio, its update holding says it repurchased 2 GME swaps to the tune of 40 million. So by now we should be familiar with the swap positions as well. But once again, you can see these are all indications of how shorts are struggling and they're resorting to these techniques which they previously didn't do when they had the capital. So as we're seeing, once again, going back to this reverse repo, as we're seeing that they are having difficulties with the liquidity, because not only is the reverse repo something we're looking at, but when you take a look at their overall positions, they've been failing to keep their margin requirements healthy. They've been failing to keep their capital healthy. We're seeing them resort to these things. And so the very fact we're seeing this should already be an indication of what's happening. Another thing is the glitch revealed itself in after hours. 100 share pings and the mechanical whole numbers like ghosts in the code, they're losing control of the illusion. We see it now, it's inevitable. So for GME, you can see this massive price spike after hours. And something that we've seen, what we always see for AMC and GME, is that a lot of things always happens when a price in terms of after hours. We see price spikes, we see these market cap changes, we see the outstanding shares changes, and these things happen even more when we see liquidity problems for these shorts. Now, the reason for this, as we've explained in the past before, is that when shorts don't have the liquidity, they fail to then suppress AMC the way they have been. Because previously, they were just dumping hundreds of millions of dollars every single day to keep AMC and GME suppressed. But when they're faced with the problem that liquidity is hard to get by, they can't suppress AMC anymore, that's when we see these, quote unquote glitches happen, because they can't fail, they can't, or rather they can't continuously use the system anymore because they failed to use the margin correctly. They're seeing the collaterals fail. And so this, and along with everything we've said, is why we talked about how the real price will be exposed, and it already has, while we're seeing the short liquidity going lower, and why these short positions are definitely going to be blowing up very, very soon. As always, none of this is financial advice, so do take advice going of soul. Make sure to do your own due diligence and research, and I'll catch you guys next time.